Welcome to this week's episode of the Good Luck Club podcast. Our mission here is to help 1 million people start a business of their own and make sure that no one feels alone doing it. We firmly believe that anyone can be an entrepreneur. No one's born anything. No one's born a doctor. No one's born a lawyer. There are, of course, lots of different types of doctors and lots of different types of lawyers. So it's not really a question of are you an entrepreneur, but what type of entrepreneur are you? And then what training and support do you need to become the entrepreneur you want to be? I'm very excited about my entrepreneurial guest today. Adam Kamani, Chief Executive Officer at MoveStreet, is here to share his knowledge. And wow, what a history he's got. What an incredible business he's running today. I think you're going to really enjoy it. Just before I bring Adam on to the podcast, I just want to do a shout out for libraries in the UK. As we all know, in the UK right now, libraries are in real trouble. They're not getting the support they need. And in my opinion, they're an important part of the community. They provide a place where you can walk in and no one asks for anything and you can get knowledge. So we're determined to help support libraries going forward and make sure that they survive. And so if anyone out there wants to support us in that effort, please do reach out. And if your local library needs our help, do let us know. Adam, I'd like to welcome you to the Good Luck Club podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you. And thanks for having me.
No, it's an honor. And I was reading about all the things that you've done and achieved, and I'm blown away. But would you mind telling the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Adam Kamani. I was the co-founder of PrettyLittleThing.com. From there, I now moved away from fashion. I set up a property company called Kamani Property Group, and also an investment fund called Capital. But more recently, they're still ongoing. More recently, I've set up a new app called MoveStreet, which we're really pushing hard. And that's a property app. It's a new portal, instant, sexy, fun, a bit like the dating apps. So we really want to challenge and change the way people view property, and that's my mission.
Fascinating. And how did you get into the new venture? How did you end up? I guess it's quite an interesting track record from PrettyLittleThing.com to then having an investment business and then now MoveStreet. How did that happen? What was the steps?
So yeah, I think obviously I was kind of involved with property, and I've got my own property company. And you look at all the industries over time, and they've all moved with tech and social and all these other things. Property, the way we search for property is still very much the same as it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And it's not really moved with time, not purely because there's two monopolies in the market. And we thought, okay, how can we... It's actually my wife's idea. She said to me on the sofa one day, hey, what about this idea? And at first I was like, oh no, like I just shunned it off in the back of my head. And then that night I couldn't sleep and it was on my mind. I was like, she's actually onto something here. So about 18 months ago, we started exploring the idea, started meeting web developers, app developers, all sorts of things, getting ideas together. And it was about a year of like process of kind of design and everything. And then, yeah, back in August, we kind of did our soft launch, which is going great. So yeah, we just thought there's a real need for someone to change the way we view for property, like you do for booking a taxi. You now use Uber, Airbnb, dating apps. Why can't that be the same in the way we search for property? It makes life so much easier for the customer and also the agent. So that's what we're trying to do.
I think it's very interesting, the process you went through there. A lot of our listeners want to start businesses. As someone that's done so many things as you have done, when you first hear this idea and you brush it away, what do you think that is? What makes you initially brush it away and then that night can't sleep? What is that nuance?
Good question. I think you kind of hear this idea and then you kind of brush it away because you're not really thought about it too much. So initially you're like, oh, whatever. And then you kind of, I don't know, it's just something on your mind that is like, okay, let me think about this a bit more. If I wanted to do this, how does that look? And straight away, like when I couldn't sleep that night, it wasn't a case of, okay, I know how this would look. It was a case of wake up in the morning and let's see how it could potentially look and how we could make it look. And what's required to do that is a case of making phone calls to app developers, speaking to my wife, getting creative ideas, thinking of a logo, a brand name, all those things. So it's a combination of things really. And then when you can kind of piece it all together, you kind of get everyone in a room and kind of say, right, this is the idea. How does this work? And how does something like that develop then? And if you get told no, a lot of people will just say, okay, no, that's it. Like, accept the word no. What we like to do is say, okay, why not? What's another solution to overcome that no. And then you start finding out that there's more avenues of there's more ways of carving up that business instead of just what you thought it was. And ideas get shown, and before you know it, you're building a business, which is exciting.
Was the first key hire the programmer side? What was when you want to make something like this happen, what do you have to do?
Sorry, say that again.
What was your first key hire? Was it a programmer? What was the first steps you made from a team building perspective?
So obviously my wife and I kind of sat down and said, right, okay, this is what we want it to be. How do we do that? So my first point of call was speaking to, obviously we were app-based, we want to be an app. So speaking to an app developer, we made a call to an app developer saying, this is what we want to do. Is this possible? So I think once we knew that was possible, it was a case of then supporting that team with other people that could then do other stuff around it to make all of the pieces put together. So I think the first call was speaking to an app developer, really.
Mm. And now with this business, I mean, in general for yourself too, with so much success behind you, what is success for you going forward?
A lot of people ask me this, and I don't think you always want more, I suppose. People always want more. I think when you get a taste of doing well with a business, you always think, okay, why can't we can do a bit more now? Like you get that drive, you get that hunger to want to do more. So I don't think that hunger for success ever stops. And success could be many things. It could be the happiness of the team, the way the business is developing. Monetary could be part of it. There's a combination of factors when you come to success. It all depends on the individual and what they want to achieve. Like if you're going to go and do humanitarian work, success for you is making that change happen. For me, success in this app is more trying to really muscle in on the big boys and trying to, okay, this worked. We made people change the way they view property, and there's that excitement of trying to do that, chasing that goal all the time, and having a blocks coming your way and just trying to open them up. I think there's lots of challenges to it, and that makes all of it the success, I suppose.
Mm. Now, looking at your CV, again, I'm just kind of mind blown, but you're still the CEO of KM Capital. So how do the two work together, being a CEO, I guess, of two structures? And today, KM Capital, how do you make investments? What's the model there?
So it was, I was on a flight with my father a while ago, a few years ago, and it was basically a conversation that there was lots of companies wanting our investment. I was like, oh, I'd love to, obviously because of the family and what we've done. And it was like, we've not got time for this, not got time for this, not got time for that, we can't really do it. And then we were on a flight one day, and someone came to me on LinkedIn or Instagram or something saying, really want to invest, really want you guys to invest, I'd love to be a mentor, all this stuff. And it was one of many that came through. Just kind of, it was that message came in at the right time as I was having this conversation with my father. And it was a case of like, you know what, there's so many people we could help. They could benefit of us, we could benefit of them. It's a mutual thing. Why can't we do it? It's a case of, okay, have we got the time to do it? And it was kind of like, okay, I'll give it a go. Let's give it a go. So it's kind of really juggling your time, and we've got a team of people around us. So the first initial stage when people send their decks in for investment, it doesn't come to me, it goes to a team of people. They do all the due diligence, research, have the initial conversations. There's a kind of a process that goes through. If they get through the process, I'll meet them. And then from there, we'll make the call if we're going to invest or not.
Sorry, but a lot of people out there are, want investment. I think probably our biggest request is on this podcast show is knowledge on how to raise money. And I think, from an investor perspective, what are you looking for when someone approaches you? What are the triggers that make you want to invest?
I always say to everyone when someone comes through the door, it's about, obviously, depending on the product or what their services they want investment is it destructive? Can it be worldwide? What can we do with it? That's one thing. But I think the most important thing is the person behind the business, the person who's going to run the business. Because as investors, a lot of people come for mentorship or say, oh, I love you as investors. And that's all great, but we're not going to run that business. We're just going to guide you and help you and give you advice and open our network up to you. So there's lots of cases where I've met great businesses, but the person behind that business who's pitching isn't, we feel we can't work with them, or we just feel like it's not going to be a match. So we turn away those businesses. There's other times where we've got some fantastic businesses on the books, but it's more really behind the person, how well they know their business, how well they know their competitors, how well they know their customers, and do they really understand what they need to do in the financials in terms of managing that money? Because it's all good raising £1 million, £2 million. If you're going to piss it down the drain in 6 months, as an investor, you want to know where that money's going and how you're going to get return on that. So it's a combination of things, but I think it's really about the person behind the business.
Well said. I think that's something a lot of people do sometimes, forget to put themselves as part of the value proposition and busy talking about the gap they're filling or the business model itself. And yeah,
what I would say to the listeners listening, because a lot of people probably think, oh shit, like I don't know all these things. And that's also okay. Like you don't need to know all the answers. But what I would say, if you're going to come in a meeting with me and pitch, I don't know, selling a new jam, for example, yeah? And the person after you is also going to come in and pitch a new jam. You don't know that, yeah? Because you don't know my next meeting. You've got to make sure you're better than that other person. So are you fully prepared, and can you put your heart on your sleeve and show your ambition, show your care, show you know really about that industry? And if you don't know all the right answers, it's not a problem. We just want to see that drive and that ambition, and that you do have some understanding and can work with us and want to learn with us to make that happen. So just making sure you're the best version of yourself before you come to that meeting, and no one else who comes in before or after you is better than you.
Very good bit of advice. I agree. It's people have to be more competitive and understand that dynamic. How did you end up being this driven? I know for my listeners that don't perhaps know, you've got an entrepreneurial family. Do you think that's what's driven you to this point today?
I think in that sense I've been given a head start. Like growing up with my grandparents, my dad, my uncles, all very business driven. Obviously, since there was 18 of us in one house that lived together, so they were always out at work. We were only little kids at school. And they would come back. We'd come back from school, they wouldn't be home. We'd wake up for go to school, they wouldn't be home. They'd be out already. So you won't see them till like 9 o'clock at night. Sometimes you won't see them because they're out on the road. And then just the conversations around the dinner table is always business. So I think it just kind of naturally then gets drilled into you. Okay, you start thinking a certain way because you hear it so much when you're little. It's like a parent, anyone. I'm not a parent myself, so I might not be the best person to say this, but you teach a child something and you keep drilling in, no, don't do that, no, don't do that, no, don't do that. So eventually in their head, they can't do that. The same on the dinner table is talking about business. In your head, you just start naturally thinking, you start thinking a certain way. So in that sense, I have been given a head start. So yeah, that just really been surrounded by my family, which are the best teachers I could have had.
So do you think entrepreneurs are born or bred? I mean, do you think your natural instinct would be an entrepreneur?
I don't think you can never not be an entrepreneur. It depends. It's hard. You've got to have certain aspects about you. You've got to have that drive, that passion, that forward thinking. If you've got those three things, then you've got every shot to be an entrepreneur. Also, you've got to be vocal. You can't be afraid to say what you want to say. That's part of it as well. A lot of people are nervous to say something and think, oh, they're going to offend someone, or that was the wrong answer. Like, there's no right or wrong answer in this world. It's just a case of, that's your thoughts. How do I get there? Does it work? And will it work? And you try it. Some people win with that way. Some people will learn a very big lesson and say, oh, it didn't work. But you'll learn so many lessons on the way of doing that. And then the next time you go, you're so much more equipped.
Well said. My wife is actually very shy, and so she was very smart. We got into business together 20 years ago because she's actually the brains and I'm the talker. So that's another way to do it is, get someone on your team who can explain it and sell it for you as a co-founder, perhaps, which is what my wife did. She's the brains, and then she told me what to say. So that's another way to get around your point, because I do think communication is very important.
It's hugely important. And I also, what I would say to the listeners again is surround yourself with the right people. 100%. Like, I might be the steering wheel, but the engine is the team behind me. If they don't do their job, I can't move. I can't direct. And it's so important. There's so many people you see it with sports stars, whoever they may be. I won't drop names, but they've got such a good attitude in terms of what they want to do. but the people around them are telling them the wrong stuff or the wrong shit. And it's like, if you get badly influenced by someone or someone gives you the wrong decision, it affects so many more things. So you got to really make sure you trust the people around you, build a close network of people around you, and let them all support you, and be all on the same page more than anything.
Another great point. How do you hire people? How do you make sure that's the case when you're hiring people?
This is a good question, because this is something my team laugh about in the office. I let whichever department it is, do the interview process. I'm always the last person to do the final interview, because I realized very quickly we spend more time at the office. Well, maybe not so much now, but before COVID, we spent more time at the office than you do with your families at home. So you want to make sure you've got a certain dynamic in the office. My dynamic in my office is quite laid back. I'm happy for people to be laid back, chilled, whatever, as long as the work gets done. They've got to be happy to come in. If you get them in the office and bam, 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 and make it like a prison or make it like a boarding school or whatever like that, they're not going to be happy. You want them to be happy, and then they'll do more for you. So I'm always very particular with who I hire. I look at the personality. I always look at personality more than skill. You can't teach personality. You can teach skill. So personality is a big thing for me.
Yeah, I always say I want to invest in people that have a sense of humour. You know,
yeah.
If you lose money, fine, but at least you had a bit of fun along the way. You know.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Underrated skill, sense of humour, but personality is such a good point. And do you think going forward now? I mean, of course, you're doing something very innovative with Move Streets, but it's all moving so fast. The innovation side. Do you feel like it's still possible to create something completely original, or is it really just a copy of something else and making it better?
If you said this 10 years ago and you said you're going to do everything online, you would think you're barking up the wrong tree. Maybe not 10 years, maybe 15, 20 years ago, you think you're barking up the wrong tree. So you just kind of see how behaviors change. Like social media came about, and look how many, now businesses without social media don't really survive anymore. So the habits of the outside world changes so much. So you've always got to be listening to what your customers say, what they want, where they are, how they're shopping. If you look at all those things, there's always new ideas come about. Like for example, this won't be the last business that's formed, Move Streets, and it won't be the first one either. There'll be loads more that will come along, and that will depend on the idea and what's going on outside. There's going to be so many more. There's going to be millions of more businesses that come about, and there's going to be a million that will make it as well. So you can always be innovative and have new ideas and just get the balls to do it, really. It's so hard saying that, because people that haven't got the financial privilege to do that, it's a lot to put at risk to leave your job and set up a new business. So it takes a lot of balls. It does. But I do feel sorry for people that can't really afford to take that risk.
I know exactly what you mean. I actually have kind of a counterpoint, which is I've started 13 of my 18 businesses with no money. The most successful one was with no money, because also it can bring you closer to the client. It can bring you closer to keeping an eye on the business, right? So I think there is something in actually starting a business with no money and actually having that challenge. And plenty of businesses we know get well funded don't make it, and plenty of businesses that are kind of bootstrapping and fighting in the trenches do.
And I think when you are bootstrapped like that, it makes you fight for it more. It makes you be so much more careful with every penny you spend. Like, you become so much more alert of the whole business around you. Like, fuck, I've not got this much money, so what can I do? And it really makes you drive a hard bargain, negotiate, like all these new skills that come about from really not having much support, drive it more with money. Really, you learn so many more things from it. And some people really pick it up easily and really thrive at that. Some people, like you said, will just get swallowed up from it. So it's a fine balance, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just think about what you're doing, and if you need money for a good idea, but let's say you've got the money and you go ahead. Maybe you don't bring someone like you into their business, and with you in their business, you've got a more ensured chance of it being successful. So having no money means you seek outside support, which can be a great thing, and validation for that matter. I mean, I've actually pitched my own businesses to people. I don't need money, but I've learned a lot by getting that feedback from people that know what they're talking about.
It's not all about money. It's about smart money.
Totally.
It's about, okay, A and B can give you 100 grand each for your business, but A has no clue about your business and doesn't really have anything, but B, he's got a network of people that will really be able to support your business. So it's really about finding the right investor as well.
I was really interested in your family dynamics you were talking about there, because it makes me think of this kind of, I hate this phrase, but work-life balance. And as you get older, I guess, do you for example, do you work with your wife? You know, it's her idea, right? So we've got a record of that now, by the way. So when it's $1 billion company, we have to credit her completely. But how do you keep work-life balance? Or is there such a thing? Is it all bullshit?
In what aspect? Sorry, just like finding like your home life, keeping it separate from your work life.
Exactly. Do you think there is work-life balance or not?
I don't know. It's hard because I don't see work as work. I see it as a hobby. So it doesn't, like, obviously there's days where it stress you out, or you want to pull each other's hair out or stuff like that, and you share ideas and you might not agree on the same idea, and it's like coming to a compromise. There's things like that will happen. And obviously you talk about these things at work, and on the way home you might still be bickering about certain things. And that's normal. I think that's the same with anyone that's going to have that relationship with someone and have a work life with them. I think we've kind of agreed, when you get home, let's not speak about work unless there's something really pressing that needs to come up. But I think it can be done. A lot of people don't like to do it. I understand why. I know, like, for example, people in my office, they couldn't work with the other half because they want to keep it two separate things. Also, it gives you something to talk about when you get home, like your day at work. Like me and my wife, we have the same, very, very similar day at work. So yeah, I think you can do it. It's just depend on the person you are.
Yeah, I guess this podcast show's all about, you know, giving different ways you can do things. But I love working with my partner. I actually think, yes, you have something quite deep to talk about because you kind of understand what's happening in the office. I think something gets lost if I go home and try and explain it.
Yeah.
If my partner's actually been there, you almost have like a telepathy. You know, you can understand each other's view on it. And I've loved working with my partner. I actually recommend it to people. I mean, you also like moving in with someone, right? You kind of find out about them when you work with them.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Some people don't like it, and I respect that, and I understand that. Some people, like, I never really thought I would work so closely with Charlotte. I thought it would be quite, you do your thing, I'll do my thing. And then when this idea came about, it's kind of like, oh, okay, we can maybe work together and see how this goes.
Do you take on very different roles?
Pardon?
Do you take on very different roles? Is that the secret to working together? Is it?
So obviously, because I've got other businesses, my time's very much split in the office. So Charlotte very much focuses on Move Streets. I'll oversee it from another point of view. Charlotte will be very much more hands-on with it. So I think having that dynamic works as well, because not all day, every day I'm working on Move Streets. Maybe half my day I'm working on Move Streets. The other half I'm working on my other stuff. It just varies. Every day's different, I suppose.
Do you think in any of your businesses there's been kind of a lucky break moment? What do you think about luck?
Everyone wants a bit of luck on the way. And the luck comes, but I don't think luck doesn't just come for those who just sit there and wait for it. You've got to really push and put yourself out there, and you'll find a door opens, and that's your luck. But you can maybe say that's lucky, or maybe say you create your own opportunity there. But I don't think if you just sat at home saying, I want to do this, don't do anything with it, and think one day it's just going to happen, I disagree with that. I think go put yourself out there, knock on the door. If it opens, great. If it doesn't open, move on to the next one. So by putting yourself out there, you're creating your own luck in that sense, I would say.
So when you kind of had this idea, or your wife had this idea, and you kind of got on board and got excited about it, and you put it out there, was there a moment when you thought, right, yes, this is it, it's definitely going to work, or was there kind of moments where you had self-doubt about it as you were putting it out into the world?
I think you can't help but maybe slightly self-doubt yourself sometimes, because you think, okay, I really put my boards on the line, like everything thankfully I've touched has worked. So I'm really putting myself here I'm setting myself up to fail in some sense, because if it doesn't work now, then I look like a failure. Do you know what I mean? So in that sense, I've got more to lose. So it's kind of like, fuck this, we're going to go all in on this and just fucking give it a go. And I think before we actually launched, we started speaking to agents and stuff like that, and did a bit of market research, and so many people, like, thankfully someone's trying to compete with the big boys. And if anyone can do it, you guys can do it. So that gave us a lot of excitement and encouragement to kind of say, okay, we've got people that are on board with us here. Let's give it a go.
I think you're touching on something there that is really fascinating, and I appreciate you bringing it up, which is when you've had success. Like I invested in the guys behind Rotten Tomatoes, and Patrick Lee, who's one of the co-founders of it, he was on my podcast show talking about how he built Rotten Tomatoes and all of that. And then he did 5 startups after that were all not very successful. Yeah. And kind of like, if he just stopped at Rotten Tomatoes, I mean, they sold it for 110 million or something, like he probably wouldn't be set up. But he, the fact that he went again and again and again, in a way, like you're talking about there, and you've got such an incredible track record. I mean, Pretty Little Things and all the things you've done, it's kind of scary, isn't it, to put yourself back out there again? I think everyone has that at a certain level, at a certain age, with a certain amount of success. So what makes you just go for it? What is that? What is that thing you've got?
My age is one thing. I'm still young. I'm only 31. I'm 32 this year, so I've still got my life ahead of me. So, like, I'm not gonna just sit here for the rest of my life and do nothing. I want to do something. I want to do more. I think when you get a taste of a bit of success, you want, like you said, you kind of fight for more and look for more and want to do better the next time, because you've got so much experience from the previous time. So you now know you can take all that experience that you didn't have initially into that and add to that and do more. Sorry, I forgot what the question was. I was just rambling on then.
No, you're talking about the process that you go through to kind of accept risk. I think that's my interpretation of what you're talking about here.
Well, yeah, if you stay in a safe lane all the time, you're just going to be in the middle. You're never really going to make a difference, are you? So I think, and like I said, it's just having the balls and having the encouragement and the excitement. And again, like you said, it's that doubt that you have, maybe, shit, this could fail. And if it does, you give yourself a bit of a slap in the face and give a reality check, and you will look on to the next thing. Not every business I'll ever touch will always be successful. I hope it is, but reality is no way you're limited on where to start. I think this business is definitely my mission for the next couple of years. I don't see myself starting up a new business myself. Probably investing in other businesses, yes, but actually running my own business, I don't think I'll set up another one for a while, because I want to concentrate on this and get this really focused and well.
For those that don't know Move Street, we'll put the links down below. People can go explore it. But what do you think is the completely unique thing about that model?
Well, if you look, again, I won't drop other brands' name, but we all know if you're looking for a house, you go to, there's 2 websites you go to. And they're the monopoly of the market. The way you look, you kind of scroll, you send them an email, go back, scroll again, send them an email, go back, scroll, send an email, go back, or call them, whatever it is. Just to book 10 properties is like maybe 100 touch points, 120 touch points. And with the generation come through now, and we're all getting accustomed to it, is this instant gratification. Uber, Airbnb, Tinder, all these other brands that are just instant. You can just do something, deliver, and it's there straight away. We saw that no one in the property market doing that. Like, if you can just see a load of properties, we've done it where swiping, but also a list view, and you can just if you want to book 10 properties and they're all with different agents, you have to ring 10 different times or send 10 different emails and go back and forth. We do it all instant. We do the job. We just click them all and we send it off, and they'll come back to you. We've also got machine learning technology coming into play, where if you only like houses they'll start understanding your habits. If you only like houses with big gardens or nice kitchens, it'll only show you the next house with big gardens or nice kitchens. So if we start really understanding what the customer wants and drive them better leads to the agents. And so far, it's been really great. We just want to make it instant and want to cater for what the next generation is. And they don't want to do all this long-winded process and having to call and email and all that. People got lazy because of this one-touch button. And so we've created that into the app for property searching.
You're doing one of the hardest type of businesses, though, the marketplace business, right? So you've got the supply one side and you've got the customers the other, I guess. How have you managed to bring those two together? What was your process for that?
We realised, okay, because I get very excited when it comes to marketing, and sometimes I have to hold myself back because otherwise I'll just go mad with it. But I think it's a case of, we realised, okay, let's get the stock numbers up first. That's our shop window, the stock. People need to go and then be able to find a property to buy or rent. So we've really focused heavily on agents to get their stock on, and then slowly but surely started introducing a bit of marketing on social media just to start driving traffic, so they've got some stock to look at, and that's an ongoing process. I think we always want more stock than customers. There will come to a point where there's only that much stock in the UK, so when that number's there, it's going to pivot at that number. But the same with the other portals. Then you start looking at Ireland or Scotland or Europe or America. That's when you can start really doing some exciting stuff with it.
Yeah, I think some of the other property portals, sometimes I find I look at them just to see what the property values are in my area. They become like a research tool as well, right? It's kind of interesting.
Exactly. So, yeah, exactly. So we're really homing in on making life for the customer who's looking for a place to live, making their life quicker, easier and simple, and also for the agent, providing them with the information they need and making them more agile, because I think when a lot of the stuff comes to them from the other portals, they've still got a lot of running around to do, and it's a lot of time waste. So we're trying to really simplify that down, really.
You've got a massive following on Instagram. You're clearly a fan of marketing generally. Is there any tips or thoughts you have on marketing today that you think really work, like social media influence, for example? Is that an area you believe in? Again,
it's a case of who is your customer, because if your customer is plus 60, social media is not really a place to be. But a 20-year-old today will one day be a 60-year-old, and where are they now? So you've got to look at what will your customer also be? Where are they now? The ones that you want them to grow with you. So I think social media, online marketing is definitely a must do. Depending on how sexy your business is, like selling clothes, it makes it so much easier because it's a sexy business to be in. Selling property and trying to get people to download the app is a bit more challenging. So you kind of have to just test different models. And we're in that testing phase at the moment, testing which methods work best. So yeah, I definitely think social media, I think everyone knows it. It's a no-brainer. It's a must right now in this market.
And what do you think's made you so popular on platforms like Instagram?
I think people are interested in the family businesses. That's definitely a big plus. Lifestyle, what I get up to. And then obviously now people are interested in the investment side of things and what I'm up to next on the property side. Like I have a lot, believe it or not, more people are interested in like you said, on your podcast about investment, getting investment, what can you do? And then obviously there's a mix of property people as well in that as well. But I think it's a combination of my family, our businesses we have, because they're very well known, lifestyle, and then obviously a bit of investment and property stuff.
Yeah, I mean, my take on it is you're very authentic in all your communications. I think that's something that our listeners could pick up on. I mean, you're definitely, you are you, right? I think a lot of people try to create an image that they're not. I think what I take from your communications is that you're very genuine, which I think.
Yeah, I think I said this a while ago. I've not really covered it on this. Like everyone gets nervous that when you go for investment, you're looking for business, you have to get up in a suit. You got to look the part, you got to feel the part, and the person on the other side of the table is going to be in a suit. He's going to say these things, and it's going to be very corporate. Everything's very corporate and very systemized. Like people don't really operate like that, especially the next generation coming through. Like I'm dressed in like this. Like I'm not dressed very particularly smart, and I'm like that in the office as well. Like be approachable. Like if someone wants to approach me and I'm sat in a suit with glasses on, la-di-da with a file, like. It doesn't become approachable. Like I want people to come here, sit next to me. I'll put that arm around them and just talk as a mate and say, let's try this, let's try that. There's no right or wrong answer. I'm not going to shout at you. I'm not going to, if you piss me off, I'll tell you. I'll be straight up with you. But I want to be approachable. And I think the way we've done business so far is being approachable, being like having a common ground with your team of people around you or potential investees. I think it's more about just being very approachable and like being down to earth, because the minute you become very corporate, the minute the other person then shits themselves a little bit because they're not the young generation aren't familiar with that corporate background and they probably don't like it. So I try it, and that's always been me. I've not adapted because that's what I feel like it is. It's just been me, and it kind of works for me.
I say to my 3-year-old all the time, don't ever change. And he promises me he won't. And I kind of feel like saying the same to you, Adam. Don't ever change, Like I really like this. That you when I hear you talk, you are the future leadership of businesses. I mean, you already are a leader of business, but the concept of like what our leaders should look like. I love that kind of down to earth. Not going to shout at you. Clearly, you don't take bullshit and stuff like that. But ultimately, that kind of like you're there. You're just another person, and you're willing to help and listen. I think that's a really nice message as well for people that are making it or becoming successful, to kind of keep that humbleness. Actually,
yeah.
Because it's quite easy. I mean, if I'd done what you'd done, I don't know if I'd be so humble. But it's nice that you are, and so don't ever change. Okay.
Thank you. Cheers.
But I think going forward, for if people out there are looking to start a business and they're not sure what to do. A lot of people don't have an idea. What do you suggest young people do? Do you think going to university is a good idea, for example, until they discover what they want, or do you think it's better to go and work with someone and who is doing something they love and learn, or just start something? Any views on this?
What I would say is everyone's time's different. Like, I might have started younger, doesn't mean that because you're the same age as me, it means you should be where I am right now in your life. And I think people get very pressured by that. Like, if you see your friend at 23 doing really well and you're 23 and you're still scrambling to find a job, like, people get very nervous about that and get very insecure about that. But everyone's got their own time. Like, all the wealthy millionaires and billionaires of the world now, they've not all started at the same age. Some started at 18, some started at 20, some started at 40, some started at 50. So your time will come. And I think if you want to go to uni, like, there's so many skills you learn from uni, being independent, making your own decisions. These are all things you need in business anyway. Also, to the flip side of that, if you don't want to go to uni and you just want to get into work, like, great, like, give yourself a head start in whatever field you want to do. There's lots of, I meet family and friends of family and stuff like that, and like young cousins and stuff like that, and they're always like, I don't know what I want to do yet. I don't know what I want to do. I want to go into business, but I don't know what. It's like, okay, what's your interest? What do you like? What do you like looking at? I like sports. I like looking at influencers. Like, do some influencer marketing in the sports world. Like, just piece it together. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, okay, go into your next one that you're interested in. And it's just about testing different things. But people are so afraid of failure, and it really does hold people back. And don't be afraid if your friends are ahead of you in their timeline, in their career, than you are, because your time will come. It's not a competition. Everyone's got their own path and their own time.
Such wise words. And I hope my listeners pick up on this to take a bit of pressure off themselves. And,
100%.
Yeah, you're right. Everyone's got a different stage. It's not comparing yourself to someone else. It's just you comparing you to you, what you want.
It's all in your own head. You sit at night on your thoughts, and it's only you and your mind speaking, and it really fucking eats away at you. Like, sometimes I think, like, I know, like, growing up, I look at my father, what he's done with his business, and it would eat away at me. It's like, shit, it's a big shoes to fill, that. And it does eat away at you. It's like, okay, you can either wallow up in your own shit and just feel sorry for yourself, or give it a go and see what you can do. And it's having that attitude as well. Like, okay, don't give up. Let's just keep going. The door will open eventually. And thankfully it did.
I think the other thing you've said there, I don't want the audience to miss, because I think it's gold, is this concept of doing your hobby as a business, doing what you love as a business. I don't know why. Maybe Picasso at one point, like, I really love painting, but I'm never going to make a living out of this, right? But I think doing your hobby as a living, I would sit and talk to entrepreneurs like you all day long for free and love it. I don't care if I never make a single penny out of podcasting, because I enjoy this experience, and I think if people did that more, and what you've just said there, I want people to pick up on that, because so I know there's people sitting there right now saying, I've got this, I love flowers, and I've got this idea of doing this flower business, but there's no money in it, right? And they're missing something that you're highlighting there that's so important. It's about enjoying the journey.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you like flowers, like, go and be a florist for a little bit. Or if you don't want to be a florist, go and ask them if you can do their social media for the flowers. Yep. And, like, really make that impact. And you'll realise, okay, yeah, I want to be a florist, you want to be social media, you want to do the marketing for it. Like, just because it's the flowers doesn't mean that's your business, but all the things around that business, of different parts of that business, you'll pick up on something that you quite like, and you'll realise very quickly, that's what I'm good at, that's what I want to do, that's what I really enjoy. And then you can apply that social media, those marketing, all those different aspects into any business then. So yeah, just test yourself out, give yourself a shot.
Find myself nodding at everything you're saying, Adam. Yeah. What was your school like? What was education like for you? Did you enjoy it? Was it useful? What do you feel about education today?
School. I wasn't the most well-behaved child at school. I was a bit challenging. That's fine. I don't mind that. I was cheeky, but I had a way with the teachers. I would be in detention all the time. I'd be mischievous. I'd want to be the clown of the class, all those things. But I didn't really care. I really didn't care, and it didn't bother me. So yeah, but then at the same time, I had this way about myself with the teachers where they put me in detention, and I'd make them laugh and joke, and I'll get myself out of it. So I was a bit cheeky with them, but it was great. I really enjoyed school. I would do it all over again. I really would. But no, I had a great time at school.
Do you think the education piece? Did you go to university? I mean, you went to Cheshire, in Chelsea, I've got down here. Do you went to university?
Yeah, I went to uni and I dropped out. It wasn't for me. I always wanted to go to uni just because you hear growing up, uni is great, freshers week, this party, this, blah, 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 make loads of friends, all these things. And I went and I really enjoyed all those aspects of it. But I never really, I don't know, something inside me, I never really thought, I want to go and get a degree and do this. I always, don't know, something inside me, I knew I was going to do my own thing. I was never going to let someone be in charge of me. I was never going to have a boss. So I always kind of, I took it for granted and then didn't really take uni that seriously, not in the education side. So I just bombed it off and did my own thing.
Well, the world is littered of successful people that dropped out of university. I didn't go at all, so I concur. Yeah. But it, like you say, it all depends on people's stages. It links back to what you were saying earlier, doesn't it? It's different people have different needs and different stages in their life. But
if someone wants to be a lawyer or a surgeon or a doctor, all those things, then 100% uni is great for you because you need to learn all these things. Totally. But if you want to be business, then you can learn a lot of aspects. Listen, uni is great. You become independent, you make friends, you become sociable, all these things. You manage your own time, you become disciplined with certain things. So it's great for those things to take in business life, but also if you just throw yourself in the deep end, you can also learn those things. So there's no right or wrong answer.
No pushback on your family when you said I'm dropping out. They're like, good, come and work with us. That's good. That's all good.
My dad was thrilled because he never went to college. He just straight working. For my grandfather was the same with him. My dad was like, go and enjoy these experiences, go and try it out. But my dad, when we came home. My dad was just laughing. He goes, I knew you'd all come back home because I knew, like, just the way we are and our thought process. He goes, there's only a matter of time, but you've enjoyed yourself now. Let's get to work.
My mum, when I said I wasn't going to university, kicked me out of home. So I had a different experience. My parents were also entrepreneurs, but they didn't want that life for me. They saw that as quite a tough life, actually, although I don't agree at all. But they saw it as they had it the hard way and they wanted me to have something different, but I think hopefully I feel like your family's very forward thinking, so I think a lot of people out there do struggle with this point though. A lot of people do feel under pressure by their parents to go and do uni, and so
I think it's hard. It's become a generational thing because our parents and grandparents, the way the world was then, is not the same now. You've got online, you've got social, all these other things, so setting your own business up today isn't as hard as it was when they were growing up, because there's so many more tools to use. The internet's great for this now. When our parents are growing up doing that, they didn't have the same privileges as we do now. So, and I think sometimes parents or that age demographic don't really fully understand the era we're in right now. They don't understand social media as well as our own age demographic does. So it's something, I think it's a bit of their mind process, their thought process of how they think and what they think it is. And it's like, it's not actually quite that, but yeah.
Now, a lot of my listeners are in America. I've got a big listenership in Hong Kong. And, in these markets, they don't mind talking about their wealth and success. But in Britain, we really are quite shy, I think. And we don't like to talk about our financial success. But we were Googling you. And the first thing that came up is net worth 1 billion. I mean, of course, forget the internet. It's always getting it wrong. But, when you get titles like that, does it jar you? Do you feel uncomfortable if for the people highlighting your success in a monetary way?
I don't ever like talking about wealth or value or anything like that. It makes me feel a bit uncomfortable, I suppose. It's not something I want to shout about. It's not something, okay, I might flaunt my life on Instagram a little bit, but I don't want to say that this cost me this much or that cost me that much. But this makes other people feel shit and makes people feel insecure. And we've all been through those stages where we look at other people's Instagram or social media and like, oh, why can't I have that? My life's so shit compared to theirs. We all have those thought processes. It does make me feel a bit uncomfortable. Like, everyone do your own thing. But also, no, I won't even say it, actually. No.
I think I know what you're going to say. And I think also, one of the reasons I do this podcast show with successful people is to show, there's an image of what money is and what money is about. And there's almost a perception that if you've got money, you're bad. But actually, most of the people I know that have actually done quite well in life, it's because they're good. They looked after their people. They provided something that people need in the world that makes their lives better. And so I enjoy the experience of sharing who people really are, as opposed to what I think is clickbait online often to get traffic to, you know, whatever newspaper or whatever media is trying to just frankly leverage you and your name in a way that they think appeals to people. So I really appreciate someone like you, Adam, coming on here and sharing who you really are, which is frankly a very nice person, down to earth, honest, authentic. And I think these headlines need to be a bit frankly smashed, because they're not the important things. I think the lessons you've got, the learnings you've had, far outweigh, of course, any monetary tag that someone tries to give you. But what do you think going forward is going to happen in this kind of new COVID world? Do you think, I mean, we've all heard that COVID has just accelerated, frankly, things like the high street demise and stuff like that. Do you think things like the high street can come back, or it's pretty much over? What do you see in the future? Do you think it's all going to be about online, or will real life experiences come back?
Well, I don't think it takes a scientist to realise, even before COVID, people were questioning the high street, whether it was dying already or not. I think COVID's probably accelerated that process. So that's that part. I also do think the way we're stuck at home at the moment, and the way, like, you look at all these restaurants, you see so many new businesses come around since COVID. Really thinking, like, obviously we can't go to restaurants. A lot of restaurants are now being innovative, like you said before, of now sending home kits to your house so you can cook those dinners at your favourite restaurant in your own house. There's also other services, not delivery, where they're giving you all the recipes and sending it to your home. There's so many different things. So, and I think the longer we're in this process, the more this habit's going to become a norm, and people are going to really enjoy, like, going to nightclubs and going to bars. Like, it felt so long ago, and we've all got very accustomed to being at home, having a drink at home, having fancy meals at home now, where you would go out and do that. So people's habits are changing, and I think online, especially on the food side of things, I think people is becoming really popular. So it's been good for a lot of people, as bad as it is, but in terms of the virus itself and people falling ill and passing away. In terms of setting up new businesses, like, it's been great. Like I say to all the listeners listening now, like, if you've not got a job, or you've got a job and you're working from home, you've got so much more time then to research while you're at home about something you potentially want to do. And what a perfect time for you to set that business up online. Because we're all at home, just either on Zoom or scrolling internet and everything. So everyone, you know where all your demographic are right now. You know where all your customers are. They're all online, bored, not doing anything.
It's another very important nugget of gold you just handed out there. I think it's like you say, it's a terrible time. It is, and it's unbelievable in many respects. But equally, I think it gives people a chance to make a change, start something fresh. And I see businesses that are starting up. I just invested in a business last week called Peas and Pod, who are doing incredible stuff. But they basically built a whole business around the problems that are happening at COVID around home education and parents needing now to look after their kids at home more, giving them tools to do that. You know, tools that normally only teachers have. And they've just done so well because they've adapted to the moment and gone ahead. And the person behind that business actually owns a lot of nurseries in London, and they struggled a bit because of all the rules, government changes. So she improvised and created this whole new business, which is actually 10 times bigger than her core original business. So, you know, to your point, Adam, quite right. I mean, people listening, I actually think there's no better time than now to start a business. And when I look at what you're doing with Move Street, you know, you can compete with the big boys because at the end of the day, it is not about storefronts anymore, right? You know, if it was about storefronts, then maybe you need to open up 1,000 storefronts to compete with whoever, right? But these days, you can do it literally through technology, and that for folks like you, young folks like you, I'm a bit older than you. There's a real opportunity, right? A real opportunity.
100%. I think don't forget, you know, all young people, I don't know the age of people listening to this, 18 to 25, like, you know, you're the future of what your customer is. You know what they want. You know where you shop. You know where you look. You know your habits. You know where you hang out. Like, you have a lot of the answers already. It's just having something that they all want to look at, and create that.
Mm. Yeah. It's interesting. I still think back to quotes of like Rockefeller and Henry Ford. A lot of people are like, oh, those guys have done it all already. There's no gaps in the market anymore. The railway's done. There's no gaps anymore, you know. And there's always gaps, right? You said it at the beginning of this podcast, and it's so true. It's so true. Adam, look, I'm conscious of time. You've given us an hour of your time. I've loved talking to you. I've personally learned a lot. I hope my audience have enjoyed it as much as me. But I want to thank you so much for taking the
Thank
time
you
out.
for having me, and I hope even if 1% of my knowledge is useful, is 1% difference to whoever is listening to the advice, and thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, well, I've learned a lot, so if my listeners haven't, then I did. So thank you, Adam, so much. I'm sure they will too.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Good Luck Club podcast. If you found what Adam had to say useful, do me a favour, click through to his website below, go check his app out and give it a like or comment even. It costs you nothing and would mean the world to him, I know, because it's his new business. It's a very exciting company, and maybe if you're looking for a property, go and have some fun and scroll through. It's a really fantastic product. I've really enjoyed looking at it the last few days myself. And so if you like property, it's almost like a game. Go and have a look. If you found anything here today useful, let us know. But in addition, if there's anything you haven't heard that you need to hear from Adam or myself or any of our community, do ask questions in the comments. We always reply to comments. Sometimes it takes us a lot of time. The last post we did have 14,000 comments. It does take us time sometimes to reply to them, so give us time, but we will always reply to you. So if you have any questions about business, please feel free to ask below. Thanks again for listening to today's podcast. We know you have 812,406 podcasts you could be listening to. We checked this morning, and you choose to listen to ours. We feel incredibly lucky.